let's look at the different ways that we can actually rig a hammock. Let's see what that looks like.
Yep. Well, there are a few available just now, and we're getting more by the day. I believe you're going to give me a new bit of equipment in a minute to play with, Mark. The traditional way would be to attach each end to an O-ring. And you can do that in several ways. There's the way that I prefer, which is to put the ring at the length that you want it and hold that in your working end. Create a tail, with your tail create a loop, feed that through, and now you've created a slip knot, which is going to, as you're on this working piece of equipment, you're going to tighten the knot on. I then take my tail, feed it through
the loop itself here at the top.
Through the loop between your knot and the actual connector. That means as you're pulling here, you're not only tightening onto the connector, you're tightening onto the tail.
How much tail should I leave?
I would usually, we've done this obviously short to show you here, but I would definitely have about a metre of tail hanging out.
Okay.
And you can actually do some clove hitches as well if you want, but yeah, about a metre of tail is a bit normal to have. 4 foot.
So what other sorts of knot could I use if I chose to?
Yep. So you can use a full turn with a row of half hitches or a square knot.
So let's do this one with what, a metre?
Yep, we can do it with the proper length. So you would take it to, obviously you're going to be using it for a knot, so you want to keep about a metre here. Take it back through, so you've got your full turn. And then do a row of just half hitches.
Yep.
So you take up the tail. So that's the 2 ways that most people would connect their, that's the first way that most people would connect their O-rings to their fabric. And just keep going until you've reached your end part.
You get to here.
I come faster than you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that, and you'd connect each of these onto something that would spread the load. Now, you can either do that with your rigging plate.
So if you're bringing these two together, you could obviously rig these two completely separately.
You can rig them completely separately. You can rig them onto a spreader bar, which would rig them. So it depends on the distance you want them apart. So you can either have them, you can either completely separately rig them. You can put them onto a spreader bar if you only have 1 point. Again, if you only have 1 point, you want them closer together. You can use a rigging plate or a pole. You can use a delta. You can use
a bow shackle.
A bow shackle, or you could have another O-ring.
Very good.
So that's the first way that we would rig, and that would be from using your O-rings, which a lot of people have.
So now we have our hammock suspended from 2 O-rings.
Yeah.
How are we going to rig it above the O-ring, particularly if we want to make it adjustable?
Right, okay. Well, first of all, you can adjust it by moving the O-ring to where you want in the fabric. The other thing you can do is you can actually use some sort of connector to put it between this and your rigging point. This one here it's a loop. It's
loop chain.
A loop chain.
Yeah.
People do refer to it as a daisy chain. It is slightly different in that each individual loop is rated.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing we want to see rather than a daisy chain.
100%. You don't want to use a daisy chain. There's a potential for error with a daisy chain that we would rather avoid.
Yeah.
And what you would do is just connect it onto the length you wanted.
So all I would do from there is decide that that was the right height for me and hang it into there. Very good, thank you.
There you go.
So let's have a look at some of the other means of connecting these. So these are 2 new products from Fire Toys, which they've kindly sent us to have a look at as well. And these are hammock loop adjusters.
Yeah.
So let's see and have a look at how we're going to be connecting these.
They remind me of, remember the belts you get?
Yep.
You put it in, and according to the instructions, they get rigged the same way. So you bring all of the fabric through the 2 loops, open the loops up, so you take your end.
Okay. So grabbing the whole loop from here.
Pull it through the 2 together.
Take it through both of the loops, just like so.
And again, make sure you've got a long tail here.
Yeah.
Then open them and take the fabric back through the back loop.
Yeah. So just going to pull that one through.
This will just depend on how thick your fabric is, how easy this is going to be. You'll probably do this faster than me with my gammy fingers. Yeah, you've definitely done this faster than me.
So I'm just getting to the point of pulling the last parts of that through. There we go.
Excellent. And
So
then just pull it tight.
that's it. So I can see where that sits. In
Yeah.
that I've gone through the two.
Yep.
And I'm just coming back through
Right
the
through
back
the
one.
one. Yeah.
So that then.
And then this is your working part here. And as you're actually pulling on the working end, it's the same as the other knots, you're actually creating tension.
Yeah. And that's quite tight anyway in its own right. So that's
really tight.
That
Yep.
feels very reliable.
So it's basically by friction, isn't it? Friction and compression there.
Very good.
So another way of attaching each end of your fabric to create it into a hammock is to actually put a prusik with a sling on each end, just a climbing sling. I like to use these ones because they're banded outside and it lets me see that I've got them in the right order. So I would take this through, keeping it wide, take it through again. Now I put a third turn on for safety with these. So your third turn, pull it together, tidy it up, adjust it to the length you want it. And once you've got a prusik, so you can see here that the working ends are the inner ends and the outer strands are the ones that are causing the compression on the knot. This can be slid when it's not under tension, you can slide it to whatever length you want, but when it's under tension, it's
not going to pull through.
It's not going to pull through.
For sure.
Saying that, I think it's always safe if you've got a prusik knot to tie a stopper knot beyond it that it can't go on. Now you can do this as a 1 bite, a 2 bite, a 3 bite. I'll just put a 2 bite in there. Any sort of stopper knot will do. And that just means that should this ride up, it's not going to go beyond the stopper knot.
Yeah, keeping it safe.
Yeah.
Very good. So one more piece of equipment to look at, which is perhaps using one of our fabric figure of eights for securing the end of our hammock.
Yes. You can only really use this method of doing it if you are if you're not wanting both ends of the fabric separate. So if you want to create a hammock where the ends are together, then you can actually certainly do that with your figure of 8. What you're going to do with this, I find it easy because you're going to be pulling 4 layers through one little hole. So I like to wrap a bit of rope or a sling through it, just to help me pull it through. Pull a loop through. Take this loop down between your tails. Through between the loop and over the top. And then pull that tight. So you pull those 2 ends tight there, Mark. And I'll pull those 2 ends tight here and make sure again it's not over the ears of the figure 8. This side is, so I'll just have to, that's better. Get these freed off. There we go. Because that's where you're going to get the risk of damage to the fabric. Now, what you would do then is you would take these the tails that you've got here, and let me make this clear for you, and just do a row of either clove hitches or a square knot or whatever you want to take up the tail at this end.
Half hitches.
Yep. And that way, this is your tail here, here's your hammock, but it's all rigged from one point.
Very good.
So that's the different ways that I know how to rig a hammock. But this is using equipment you probably already got from your silks.
Good. When we're looking at how we look after our hammocks, one of the other things that we'll want to make sure that we're doing is keeping them stored safely. Obviously you don't want them left lying on the floor because dust and dirt can start to actually erode the silks and shorten their lifespan. So one easy way to do that is to use a proper bag to put them into. Fire Toys have sent us a couple of these to try out, so I've got one for a good silk size bag and another one which is suitable for a little hammock, even has a handle on the side. which is good. We also use, because we're in one place, we also use big tubs to put them in. Any other thoughts and suggestions on storing of silks?
Store them in a dry place.
Yep.
Make sure it's ambient temperature.
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, in the past we've also done things like provided a rail to hang them on after we've been daisy chained together, just to keep them off of the ground and keep them nice and safe. So, Catherine, thank you for coming along and informing us about all of these different aspects of rigging for silks.
And thank you for inviting me along, Mark. That was really interesting.
Very welcome. So, for those of you who are watching one of our videos for the first time, please go to circusrigging.info and you'll find lots of other information there. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube and please like everything that we do, because that always very much helps get this sort of information out to a wider audience as much as possible. And also thank you to Fire Toys for sponsoring this video.